Hello everyone, welcome to another Super Scientist video. My name is Miss Liz. Today we're going to be working on a science experiment called plastic milk. So if you registered for today's program, you should have received a Super Scientist kit that contains mostly everything you will need for today's project. There are a few things you'll be needing from home as well. If you did not register for today's program, that is more than okay. You can, of course, as always, follow along by using any materials you may have at home. So we don't have a lot of supplies in our Super Scientist bag for this month because, like I said, most of the things we will be needing are things that you already have at home. But those things you will find in your bag do include a cup of vinegar as well as a cookie cutter. I have a star here, but you might have a different shape, and that is okay. From home, you will be needing some milk. You will need 8 ounces or 1 cup of any kind of dairy milk. I have whole milk here. You can use 1%, 2%, low-fat milk, fat-free milk. Really, any kind of milk will work as long as it is dairy milk. You also will need a microwave-safe bowl, a spoon to mix with, a plate. Really, any kind of plate will work as long as it is not paper or foam. You also will need a coffee filter or a strainer. I have personally found that coffee filters work best for this experiment. However, if you don't have coffee filters at home, you can use a strainer and a paper towel. That will work just as well. You also will need something to measure out your milk with, so a 1 cup measure will be needed as well. And you also are going to need a microwave because we are going to be microwaving our milk for about 90 seconds. So before we get started with our experiment, I wanted to quickly show you what plastic milk will look like because you're probably wondering, well, what the heck is plastic milk? So once we get our mixture combined, this is going to be an overnight project. So we're going to mix our solution and then we're going to let our solution sit and mold for 2 nights. And once that experiment is complete, you will find that plastic milk looks something like this. So it is hard like plastic. Mine is a little bit flaky on top, which is totally fine, but it is hardened, so it's pretty cool. And once your project is complete, you can kind of maybe glue a magnet on the back of this or make an ornament out of it. You can kind of use it for whatever you want, but it's kind of just cool to see what the finalized plastic will look like. So now that we know what our plastic milk will look like, we're going to get started in actually creating that. So the first step in our experiment is measuring out 1 cup or 8 ounces of our milk. So now is the time you want to get that measuring cup out. You can pour it over your bowl and pour that 8 ounces or 1 cup of milk into your microwave safe bowl. I already have mine poured out, my milk poured out in here, ready to go. I am actually going to go off camera to microwave my milk again for 90 seconds or 1.5 minutes, and I will see you guys shortly. All right, I am back with my warm microwaved milk, and next we are going to pour our vinegar right into our bowl of milk, and then we are going to stir for 1 minute. So I'm going to point my camera down here. You're going to pour all of your vinegar, the entire container, into your bowl of milk. I will warn you that vinegar combined with warm milk smells a little weird, so just bear with me. And like I said, then we are going to stir for 1 minute. And as you are stirring, you will see lots of clumps forming. That is happening because the acid in the vinegar is breaking down the protein in the milk, which causes those proteins to reform and build clumps. And those clumps are going to help our plastic bond together, or rather help our solution bond together, which will help create that plastic consistency. All right, it has been about 1 minute. I personally feel like my solution here could be mixed a little bit more. So I'm going to continue stirring. This might be part of the experiment where you just have to kind of eyeball it and see what works best for your experiment. If you feel like you still have you know, a lot of smaller clumps in there, then you might need to keep mixing. So kind of just see for yourself what you think is best. All right, so now it looks like this has mixed a little bit better. So the next part is a little bit tricky. Now we are going to pour everything in this bowl here through our coffee filter or through a strainer, and we're going to get all the moisture out because we want the clumps to stick together, because again, we're trying to make plastic. So we need to get all this moisture out. So if you are using a strainer at home, you might just want to strain out the moisture. Then you'll get that clump, and then you'll want to use a paper towel to kind of soak up any excess moisture. If you're using a coffee filter, you can kind of do the same thing. I'm going to use my coffee filter on camera so you can kind of follow along. All right, so I think I'm going to use this empty container from my vinegar. You can use any empty container you might have lying around at home to help you with this part. But I am going to point my camera down so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to stick my coffee filter in this container here. And then I am going to pour, actually I think I'm going to put this over my plate too. So I don't make a mess, I'm going to pour all of this in the coffee filter. I'm going to lift my filter up and you will see all of the moisture leak through. You might have to squeeze it a little bit to get some of that moisture out. All right, looks like there is a little bit of moisture left. It looks like my solution here has kind of broken the seal in the filter, so just be aware of that, so you don't accidentally squeeze any of the plastic out. We just want to squeeze the moisture out. All right, so now I'm going to open this up and you will see we have this plastic type of material here. Obviously it's not completely clumped together because it has to set, but we can take all of this out of the filter. When I did this the first time for my sample, I kind of thought it looked a little bit like cottage cheese. Maybe you guys think the same. All right, next, you're gonna have to use your fingers to kind of mold it together. It's gonna feel a little bit gross, but that's just a part of science. Then we are going to take our cookie cutter and place it over our solution just like you would with cookie dough. You might have to flatten out your plastic a little bit to fit your cookie cutter. Mine looks like this, and as you can see, I kind of have this extra material here. So I'm going to take my spoon and I'm going to kind of just break away some of the extra material there. If you want, you can use that extra material to make a second shape, or you can always layer it, which is what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to use my spoon to flatten it, just because that might create a thicker material. But again, you can always create two shapes if you'd like. All right, and then we have our completed plastic shape. And like I said earlier, you are going to make sure that you want to leave this aside and you're going to let it set overnight for 2 nights. So again, make sure that you are leaving this out of reach of younger siblings or pets so they don't knock it over or make a mess out of it. And you're going to want to let it set overnight for 2 nights. And then 2 nights from now, you can check on it and you will see that your shape will have formed into milk plastic. So I'm not going to record the overnight results just because we're not going to be making any hypotheses or really observing any kind of unique changes. We're just going to basically let it set overnight and then you will see that you have milk plastic that looks just like this. So I hope you learned something new. I hope you had fun experimenting with plastic milk. Feel free to take pictures of your final experiments and leave them in the comments below. I hope to see you all very soon, and thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.